Ashley, you did a fabulous job. I know you were nervous.
I was, and tried not to cry, but
And you did great, and now I'm going to cry. So we are an air show family. We say that a lot, so for those of you who aren't in the business, we travel together, we're gypsies. We see each other sometimes 12 times a year, sometimes 3, depending on our schedules. And you never know who's new and who you're going to meet. And we all have our where we met Jacquie B stories. So I'm going to start with that. Where did I meet the incomparable Jacquie B? Well, for me, it was at EAA AirVenture in Oshkosh, Wisconsin in July of 2005. She was a whirlwind of joy and like a kid in a candy store at all the air shows. So you can imagine her energy level at the largest air show in North America. I remember being in the Warbird area at my friend Bill Austin's RV, which was always just a flurry of activity with an assortment of people from all over the world. And I heard that laugh. That full throttle, unmistakable, happy to be alive laugh. When I looked to see who was so joyously carrying on in the crowd, it was this woman who someone said was from California and was an airshow pilot. Well, it was late in the day at Osh. It was hot and humid, but it was also dusty and dirty. But this woman with the big laugh had nary a hair out of place and was wearing the perfect shade of red lipstick that you couldn't help but notice as she laughed and smiled. That woman with the big laugh was full of energy and sass. I noticed also that she had perfectly manicured nails as she ran her fingers through the hair that I would learn she would do quite often, as well as reapply that perfect red lipstick. She was wearing a tank top with Jacquie B Air Shows bedazzled across the front, and she even had on flip-flops that sparkled and showed off her perfectly pedicured toes. I know these are things that women notice. I kept thinking, who wears sparkly flip-flops to an air show, especially Oshkosh, where you're walking all day? Well, this woman air show pilot from California named Jacquie B, that's who. And Jacquie B was someone I knew I needed to meet. She instantly made me feel as though I had known her for years. She was charming, outgoing, fun, and so incredibly full of life and joy, you just wanted to be with her. When I saw her the next day, she greeted me with the enthusiasm of an old friend who had not seen me in ages. And I knew at that moment that now I was Jacquie B's friend. For many of us, Jacquie started out as a casual airshow friend, but over time, she would become so much more as our relationships grew with her. She became a confidant, a mentor, and a big sister. She had seen it, done it, and lived to tell about it. We could all trust her to tell us like it was with honesty, or to just listen if that was what we needed from her. We could go to her for advice about life, flying, anything. And she would listen because she cared about her people, her family. I am sure I am not the only one here who can say that I learned a great deal from Jacquie B over the years. She relished in helping others to grow in this world and be their best. And she gave of her time, her talents, her knowledge, and resources, all so generously. I want to share with you a few of the things that I learned from Jacquie, and perhaps you learned from the same things from her as well. First, it doesn't matter when you go after your dreams. It only matters that you do. Jacquie might have started flying a bit later in life than some aerobatic pilots, but it did not slow her down nor keep her from making her dreams a reality. She had a goal and she went for it, and she made it. She became one of the few female airshow pilots in the world, flying air shows in the United States, Canada, and even the Middle East. She was a world-class airshow performer, and she took her act around the world as she fulfilled her dream. Second, always remember who is watching you when you are in the spotlight. Jacquie made a difference by not just flying at air shows, but she also saw the important work of greeting the audience, especially the little girls and young women and even older women who had just watched her fly. The work on the ground, meeting the fans, was as important as the flying for Jacquie. She was always so happy greeting the women of all ages who would flock to meet the woman pilot, because rarely is there ever more than one at a show. Still, she knew that she was looked upon as a hero to many of these women, especially the younger ones. She gave of her time to listen to them, ask them questions in order to engage and encourage them. She knew who mattered most at an air show. Jacquie was a true star who understood her job, and she did it with gusto and love. Third, share your knowledge. Jacquie survived a crash in her beloved pits in 2011 when flying home after an air show. I remember the day well, because for a while, none of us knew if she was okay. We just knew she had crashed. Jive and I sat together in a hotel room with several other airshow pilots waiting for information that night. It was a long day. We finally heard she was okay. Jacquie had survived. She was being flown to a hospital and David was on his way. Later that evening, Jacquie called us. She was a bit sore. David was with her, but she would fly again. No one cared that the plane was totaled, not even Jacquie. All we all cared about was that our beloved Jacquie B was okay. Several years later, I was at an airshow conference where Jacquie was the main speaker for the event. She openly shared her knowledge about what happened that caused her crash, what she did as she flew the plane to the ground, and what she did when it stopped tumbling over and over and over again. Jacquie never shied away from talking about the accident. She shared her knowledge because to her, if one person survived a crash like she did from something she said, it was all worth it. And lastly, and this has nothing to do with flying, I learned the importance of washing dishes by hand. Jacquie was between air shows in Florida one year, and she stayed a few nights with me and Jive at our house in Tampa. She was a wonderful house guest because she also cooked dinner for us every night. Yes, Jive got a home-cooked meal that week. As we were cleaning up the kitchen on the first night, she stayed with us. I started to put the dishes in the dishwasher after the meal because who does dishes anymore? She said to stop as we were going to do the dishes by hand together. Okay. I was game for it, and so together, Jacquie and I did the dishes by hand that evening. She washed, and I dried and put them away. And during this lesson at the sink with Jacquie, washing dishes, she told me that she and David would do the dishes together often because it was an uninterrupted time to talk after a long day and just be together, just as she and I were doing and did every evening while she stayed with us in Tampa that week. We washed dishes together and chatted about all sorts of things in life, not airplanes, just life. And of course, we laughed a lot too. And her laugh was always the loudest in the room, but the one full of life and love. Before she left her home to fly off to her next air show, I understood the why for doing the dishes by hand. It makes you slow down and pay attention to the person standing next to you at the sink and to listen Wash the dishes with someone. You can learn a lot about them and about yourself. I'm glad I had the chance to do the dishes with Jacquie B during her time at our house. I learned a lot at the sink in the kitchen, doing the dishes with her. As we all leave here today, after saying our farewells to the one and only Jacquie B, let's all take the time to remember what she taught us and use those lessons to carry forth her legacy. Take the time to always look your best and sparkle. Find your red lipstick. Don't lose sight of your dreams and goals, because you are never too old to make it happen if you are willing to put in the hard work. Be generous with your time and remember who is watching you. Don't keep what you know to yourself. Share your knowledge and mentor others. And most importantly, slow down and do the dishes by hand.